Hey, Roshan, are you keeping up with the latest developments in AI?
Yeah, all this large language models and whatnot, right?
Not that,
Then,
the America India progress.
well, yeah, I mean, a lot of progress over the last week. We'll talk about all of these things on this startup operator roundup. Welcome, folks. I am Roshan Karyappa.
Hi, and I'm Gunjan Saha, and together we'll be bringing you the biggest headlines from India's startup ecosystem. India ecosystem has also not been without its troubles. Byju's, which was once the poster child, like Flipkart for the Indian startup ecosystem, they have come under a lot of firing. Right? It has faced problems such as lawsuits, auditing issues, layoffs, boardroom exits. Auditor Deloitte resigned due to delayed financial statements and lack of necessary documents. Three board members stepped down without giving any sort of reason. BlackRock has slashed its internal valuation of Byju's by more than 60% to $8.2 billion. dollars. This is a cut from $22 billion. Dollars. And also, Byju's and its lenders are caught up in a legal case in the US over the restructuring of a $1.2 billion loan. So, yeah, a lot of things are happening. I'm pretty sure it really must not easy to be a founder at this point for Byju's.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a chaotic time, right? And that 1.2 billion dollars of loans were from these U.S. lenders, right? And they had asked for financial statements to be declared regularly, which of course Byju's apparently has refused to do in time, right? And which means, I mean, they are asking for a return on their money and so on. So that is a case that's happened. Of course, we've seen the layoffs and so on, and now with these board members resigning, it really doesn't bode well for Byju's. It seems like a lot of problems are coming to a head at this point. Look, scale adds complexity, right? I mean, you've raised so much of money, you've acquired maybe 12 or 14 of these other companies. Just integrating all of this, streamlining this is just a massive task, right? And we spoke about this last time also. Corporate governance, it might seem like a sort of a nice to have thing when you just about start out, but then at scale it just really can unravel. So yeah, I mean, let's just wait it out. I suppose there have been a lot of news articles on what is happening in Byju's, and look, it's sad. Nobody wants to, talk about this stuff, right? We, especially, I mean, on the startup operator, we want to curate stuff that inspires you, right? We want more startups and not less. We want founders, more founders in the ecosystem, right? We want people to be inspired that you too can do stuff, right? And so we don't really focus on as much of the negative stuff. We don't focus on informing you or educating you about this stuff. I mean, I think we leave that to some of the others in the ecosystem to do. But yeah, it's sad. I mean, some of this stuff also has to serve as a warning in terms of what not to do, right? So let's just watch this play out. I suppose Akash IPO might come up sometime next year, right? And they plan to raise $1 billion on that. So who knows? I mean, maybe the Akash IPO could be a panacea for all the ills at Byju's.
But also for a company at a scale like Byju's, right? There are repercussions to everything that you do, and especially with what's happening with them today. Many venture funds, angel investors, and even private players, they will become even more wary of investing into companies.
Yeah, see, we're going to again talk about MojoCare as well, right? I mean, the real concern is the LP is getting freaked out, right? That hey, there is no proper corporate governance, and maybe this is a risky time or a risky asset, right? I mean, that is a concern, because all of this doesn't really signal positivity for the ecosystem for sure, right? And we are reliant on external money, so yeah, we have to be careful about this stuff. I hope this stuff gets cleaned sooner than later.
So you're talking about corporate government governance in MojoCare. Investors have flagged irregularities within their finances. Deloitte is conducting a forensic report, which is expected to come out sometime next week. And investors are also considering shutting down MojoCare's operations and distributing the remaining capital to the investors, right? But think from a customer end, right? Like customers have invested money in terms of like buying the product of what Byju's has to offer, what MojoCare has to offer. What about these guys? Because that's a very considerable chunk of the population.
Byju's more so than MojoCare, I suppose. Byju's is
Yeah.
education, MojoCare is sexual wellness, right? So priorities, you know. But male sexual wellness, particularly, right? It's absurd, you know. I mean, I'm hearing various theories that there were some kickbacks involved. I mean, again, all of this is alleged, right? I mean, all of this is not proven and so on. But yeah, it's pretty sad. You know, the Mojocare founder has been an investor himself, so one would kind of assume that there would be a greater diligence on his part. But well, I mean, it seems just like Go Mechanic and some of the others, right? I mean, it's yeah, it's an absurd case, you know. I mean, I was just going back to that article that we used to reference often, playing different games by Everett Randall, where he said that Tiger just changed the game, in 2021, where with all of their deal making, right? Literally, I mean, if you look at the sort of pace of deal making, it was almost one deal a day type, you know.
Every roundup used to have 3-4 announcements from Tiger
Yeah,
Global.
insane, right? You're not going to do that without easing a little bit on diligence, right? Or in this case, easing a lot on diligence. And due diligence is a very important point. So this is just sad. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about it. So let's
Let's
move
move
on.
on. Many participants of Shark Tank India have been reporting issues with the sharks. The sharks have been accused of dealing investments under various pretexts, and founders have alleged impolite behavior and going back on investment promise that were even aired on TV. Now, in the absence of documentation or agreements, troubled participants may find it difficult to seek legal recourse. So, what do you think
Yeah,
Shark
this
Tank
happens
season?
routinely. I mean, even in the US Shark Tank, actually, the parent entity, right? I mean, deals that are accepted on TV don't actually end up closing because there's a whole bunch of due diligence that happens at the back end, right? And also, I mean, people obviously change their mind, right, and so on. So that does happen. However, I mean, Inc. 42 had an interesting article on this, like with 5 or 6 people alleging all these kind of things, right? We don't know what the backstory is, right? We don't know. I mean, there are always two sides to it. So we'll have to wait for details to emerge. But I do hope that Sony comes out and clarifies things. Very important that that happens. This has been a week of dreadful news for
I think this serves a
startups.
good like a bumper on the road, which kind of forces you to take a look back on your rearview mirrors.
Good point. Maybe, yeah. Let's see.
Last week we discussed about a crypto startup shutting down, right? And this week we have another startup called Pillow that will be shutting down its app and services due to the regulatory uncertainty. The 2-year-old startup had raised $21 million from Axel, Kiona Capital, Elevation Capital, and Jump Crypto. And Pillow's chief rival Flint, right? They also shut down last month due to the same reasons, which is regulatory hurdles and negative market sentiment. Now, this is coming at a time when RBI is really pushing the adoption of CBDC, the central bank digital currency. We did see in last year's or this year's budget announcement about cryptocurrencies coming under the gambit of formal law, right? When the taxation laws came into place, but not much has been done in that space since then.
Yeah. No, but that is a key thing, right? I mean, once the taxation came in, right, it became prohibitively expensive to even think of investing in cryptos, right? And you can look at the, assets, they've fallen big time, adoption has fallen big time, right? And it's a clear signal by the government that they're not keen on these. On cryptocurrency specifically, right? I mean, they don't want to actually encourage this and so on. So a lot of these folks have either migrated to Dubai or Singapore, elsewhere, more crypto-friendly countries. I don't know who will be left to operate. I mean, a few of these exchanges still do operate, but other than that, like a real crypto business of this sort, I mean, it's hard. It's really hard with so many of these regulatory hurdles and always having to find a sort of a loophole to exist. I mean, there's just too much of ambiguity and uncertainty.
But what about the promise which crypto and technology like Web3 brought in? Because back in 2020, 2021, we used to discuss fundraisers that were not in terms of cash but in terms of cryptocurrencies. For example, let's say Polygon, right? Of course, Polygon is a fantastic startup working in the crypto space. But yeah, the future seems very uncertain at this
See,
point.
from a technology perspective, I am still excited by Web3, and cryptography is obviously very, very important also, right? But from a currency perspective, I think there were all kinds of signals, right? That this is a typical asset that there's, whenever there's a lot of liquidity in the market, people will sort of buy these assets, it'll appreciate, and then, when the market turns, it'll go to shit. And that's really what's happened, against the promise of crypto that it'll be an inflation hedge of sorts, right? So yeah, I mean, it's just if you are a believer in crypto, you'll think that this is one of this down cycles, and that you will load up on crypto assets and wait for the next time when Bitcoin touches $1 million or whatever.
So is your portfolio still active?
No, I mean, I think long gone, right? I mean, I'd invested, God knows, I mean, just a small amount, just to get a taste of things, but yeah, long gone. Jury is still out. Web3 use cases are still interesting. I think there could be a lot of stuff that we could do on blockchain, especially for a country of this size, right? Where everything cannot be centralized. It has to be, decentralized, and blockchain is the technology layer for decentralization. So let's see.